There is something very, very broken in this country. It's not just on the left. It's on the right. It's on the left. And it's bad for us. And what that is that people are existing in these little bubbles where they don't want to hear other points of view. They're becoming increasingly like, get out of my way if you disagree with me. It's breaking up families. It's breaking up friendships. And I want to just go back and tell you a couple of stories, and then I'll get to this weekend and why this triggered this moment for me. But this epidemic, you talk about like a pandemic, this is a pandemic. It's a pandemic of an inability to just listen to someone you disagree with, just hear their point of view, have a real conversation, have friends, have family members that you may not see eye to eye on everything. If we can't do that, we're in some serious, serious trouble here. So I'm putting the hot topics aside for a moment, and I want to share something with you. When I was younger, I was in my 20s, and this theme has kind of come with me throughout my life. I was in my 20s, I was working at a bar. I don't know if you've ever worked at a bar. Hard work. I think I shared with you it was a 2-story lounge. Bar was downstairs. All the tables were upstairs. It was a lot of work. But I met someone there, a friend of mine at the time. She was great. We clicked. I'm not someone typically who clicks with new people, but we did. You know how it is sometimes, work in the same shifts, kind of in the same scene. We became friends. And I wasn't talking about politics a lot back then. I was in the restaurant business. I was thinking about doing some acting. It was before I even taught school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a floater. I was like, I went to grad school. I have a master's degree I don't want to use. What do I do? And I just kind of floated around. So we went out to dinner one night and we got into politics, which was very odd. She felt very differently from me about everything. She was a really hard left, makes Bernie Sanders kind of look like a conservative kind of gal, which was okay. I didn't know all that at the time, but we kind of had a great conversation. And I went home thinking like, wow, I learned something new about her. Didn't affect how I saw her or like didn't affect me wanting to or not wanting to be her friend. I thought it was really healthy. It felt really healthy for me to have that conversation and like be challenged and didn't get contentious at all. No arguing. Well, I got up the next day and I'll never forget it. I had gotten a message from her that said that she felt violated. I'll never forget that word. She felt violated by my opinions. Violated. And it kind of shook me. We had been friends for several years. I couldn't imagine what I had said that was so out there to her or that was so, would cause someone to use the word violated. And truthfully, it wrecked the friendship. She kind of dropped me like a hot potato after that. And it was one of those moments where, yes, you're like, that wasn't really your friend, but that doesn't make it any easier to kind of swallow in the moment. And you're like, what's going on here? Because I grew up in New York City. I was always outnumbered. I even wrote a book called Outnumbered. I always was somebody who listened to other people talk about politics and stuff, and I didn't agree, but it was all right. They were my friends. We had common interests. We had this or that. So this was really new. That was the first time I really felt someone kind of say, you see the world differently, and that's not going to work for me. Okay. A couple of years later, I started doing Fox News hits, and I had another friend at the time. We'd been friends for 4 or 5 years, and I never made Facebook political at the time. It was my personal page. She was very political, and I knew that about her. Her Facebook was kind of covered and all this stuff, Occupy Wall Street at the time was big, I remember, pro-abortion rallies. It was just littered with all of this stuff. And I would see some of it and be like, oh man, I don't agree with that. But whatever, it was what it was. That was part of who she was. She was passionate about it. And my page had nothing on it like that. It was just, pictures of my family, my friends going out. And I remember that when I posted, when I started doing Fox, I started just promoting those appearances. And I would just say like, hey, I'm heading on Sean Hannity's show at 9, whatever the time was at the time. I'll never forget, got a message from her. I can't be friends with someone who would go on Fox News. I said, you don't even know what I'm going to say. You don't even know what I'm going to say. Didn't matter. Did not matter. That tunnel needed to be maintained. That tunnel of like, these are the people who see the world the way I do. This person is over here. I'm uncomfortable. Really, that quickly, I was just sort of cycled out. Wasn't as pronounced as the former situation where it was like, I can't talk to you ever again. But I was clearly not part of the team. after that. So those were two experiences that I kind of swallowed, and I started to realize something was wrong. And when I wrote my book Outnumbered, I actually wrote about being able to walk in someone else's shoes and look around and experience the world, you know, and have these conversations and not be like willing to cut people off, because I realized this was real. This was real and this was happening. Now you fast forward a bunch of years and you remember I was on The View. I got fired from that job. That's public, right? I don't know the details as to why, but regardless, it wasn't an easy pill to swallow, that firing, because I went to work one day and didn't have a job the next with no explanation. So you might imagine that you might be, what happened there? Regardless, I made a decision when I left that I was gonna not take that out on, you know, producers or cast. I kind of kept close with them. And I kind of said to myself, you know what? I knew there was somebody in that establishment who's not there anymore who was just a bad seed. And I knew something pretty sinister had gone on and had nothing to do with me or my work. And I kind of just made a decision to take the high road on that, which is why you'll never be able to find any, go ahead, Google it. You'll never be able to find me, you know, saying bad stuff about the show when I left. That's just not who I am. That's not the game I play. When I'm done, move on, smile. Don't take that negative energy with you. You may remember, I stayed in touch with the ladies for a long time, actually right up until I appeared last year. And if you'll remember, I went on the show and we all saw that unfold. I get on the show. I just have a different opinion about what is apparently a sacred cow, which is the vaccine. Heaven forbid anyone disrupt Big Pharma's sleep. And suddenly I was the enemy. I was the bad guy. It was like misinformation, shut down, end the segment, you're a bad person. Really all I was saying was, hey, everyone make your own decision. This is not ideal for me. I don't need it. It's not been advised for me. So at that moment, I also realized, if you touch one of these sacred topics and you kind of tread on that, you'll be excommunicated in 2 seconds too. Why couldn't we have that conversation? I was left thinking. You invited me on. Why couldn't we sit and debate that out? Would have been a great topic to sit and hear people pro-mandate, anti-mandate. That fantastic conversation for that moment in time where the mandates were just coming out. People felt very differently. There were people around the country who loved it, who hated it. That was a moment for different points of view to gather and to talk. Nope, couldn't have it. For whatever reason, that topic was sacred. I think there are other topics like that. I think the topic of gender. I think the topic of race. I think there's certain untouchables. And if you touch them, you're going to get burned. Someone's going to just burn you up. They're going to burn you up. So that was my moment to be burnt up. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, all these years of just maintaining that respectful, like polite, up in a minute. Now, this doesn't only happen on the left, okay? The reason I'm bringing it up is because it's also seeping into the right. Do I think it happens more times on the left? I do. Do I think it has happened more in my life from folks on the left? I do. That's my personal experience. But you may also remember that I worked at Fox News, okay? I wasn't always popular toward the end. I took an opinion. I felt like Trump sometimes got in his own way with the tweets and all that stuff. I didn't like all the personal attacks. I felt like it distracted from some of the really good policy work that he was doing. And I kind of wanted him to just be like, can you just give yourself a minute, sit back and let that positive moment happen? So I shared it. I'm an opinion person. That's my job. I also didn't see evidence of a stolen election. And I was asking. So I made it my job to come out and say, okay, prove it to me. Show me. Where is it? You know, I'm not seeing in the court documents. I'm not seeing that this happened. They're not alleging this in court. So I was asking, you know, folks like Jenna Ellis and like, hey, like, why aren't they making this allegation in court if it's true? What's going on here? I was really, truly, when I say this, truly trying to just get to the bottom of what was going on and why was there this discrepancy between what I was being told by GOP governors and what the president was saying, and was there something wrong here? Maybe there was something stolen and I was missing something. So it was like, what am I missing? What's going on here? Well, that led to me being excommunicated by some in the conservative movement. It wasn't a popular position with everyone. And I saw an instant like change in some people, like, she's a traitor. she's a traitor. Get her out of here. She's an anti-Trumper, which if you listen to my commentary was absurd because I was agreeing with him 90% of the time. No one agrees with anyone 100% of the time. That's just, then you're a robot or you're a paid or unpaid spokesman for the person in office, which I wasn't, right? So that was a moment for me that was challenging because I was like, I had gone through my whole life thinking, oh, this is something that happens on the left. And it wasn't just something happening on the left. This was now something happening on the right as well. That's a problem, right? Especially because in my view, people on the right have been really good about talking about diversity of thought on college campuses and all of these things that have been championed for so long. And now I was seeing in my own life, wow, when it comes time to actually just have an opinion that doesn't quite jive, man, there were a lot of people with big microphones that were ready to throw me right off that Titanic. I mean, really. So it was a learning experience and an important one. If you like the short clip, you can catch another one here, or you can catch the full episode right here.